The Operative No One Lives Forever was originally released back in November of 2000 for the PC. It was widely acclaimed simply because it was a very intelligent first-person shooter that included a lot of elements from other types of games that a lot of first-person shooters just don't. Some of the things that made the PC version so highly acclaimed, and one of the reasons so many people were looking forward to the PS2 version, was that the game had a lot of humor, great AI, and a variety of different mission types. While the PlayStation 2 version of No One Lives Forever includes all of those elements, the one feature it, however, does not include that ultimately ruins the entire experience is the lack of a quick save. Before I go into all the reasons why the quick save spoils No One Lives Forever for the PlayStation 2, let me touch on some of the really cool elements that are in the game. The story, while not terribly, intriguing or different, puts you in the role of a super sexy secret agent named Kate Archer. She's basically kind of the Austin Powers, female Austin Powers version of a 60s spy film, and you control her in her quest against Harm, which is basically this, this big evil empire that's trying to rule the world. As Kate, you go through a ton of different missions. In all, there's 60 missions ranging across 19 levels, which is 4 more than the PC version. They created 4 exclusively for the PlayStation 2 version. The missions, as in any first-person shooter, pretty much revolve around you shooting bad guys. The one difference in No One Lives Forever is that the game includes a lot of stealth missions, where basically you have to try to sneak undetected without being seen by enemies. And at the end of the level, it has a bunch of stats, and one of them is whether or not you were seen and how many people saw you. So there is an emphasis on stealth in the game. By far and away, the coolest thing is the whole campy 60s, spy film kind of humor that goes on. The game's got great dialogue and a decent story, but the characters in the game, Kate and the bad guys, and just even the random enemies you encounter when you're going through the levels, you'll hear them talking about completely mundane things. That's just hilarious when you take it in the context of some henchman standing on a balcony with another henchman, watching this courtyard, with guns, and they're talking about basically getting snow tires or something. It's quite good humor in the game. So aside from the story and diverse gameplay elements for the missions, there's really one thing which I mentioned before, the quick save feature that's not in the game, that no matter how good the humor is, no matter how good the voice acting is, no matter how good the game plays, it's simply almost unplayable because you can't get anywhere without a quick save, simply because you're asked to go through an entire mission, and the missions are actually quite long, without basically you got to go through perfect. Of course you have health and armor, but it's very sparing, and even on the default difficulty setting, it's incredibly hard to get through. Take for instance Half-Life or Red Faction, 2 other first-person shooters for the PlayStation 2. Both those games included quick saves, because frankly there's just sometimes when there's tons of enemies all around you, and you got to fight your way through. So once you get past a batch of them and you quick save, then at least you don't have to start the mission all the way over. In No One Lives Forever, however, you have these incredibly long missions, some of which are over the second you're spotted by an enemy. So having to play for 15-20 minutes going through a level and then being seen and then or killed and then have to start all the way over again, it's quite a chore, and it really just changes the game completely from the PC version. Whereas the PC version was more focused on the task in front of you and what you had to do and what you had to do to get past that. Now it's about okay, I got to remember where all those enemy guys were so that I know I can shoot them and I can sneak by them and get through to the part where I know I'm having trouble at, and then you got to figure out how you're going to get by that part you're having trouble at, which is it'll take you 3 or 4 times. So you can play conceivably through a mission that when you get the good run takes you 10 minutes, but it took you 5 hours to get past it because you had to try it so many times. It's quite ridiculous. Visually, No One Lives Forever, the game came out 2 years ago now on the PC. It uses the Lithtech engine. It was a good engine back in the day, but compared to other games, even to Agent Under Fire, another first-person shooter for the PlayStation 2, the game just simply doesn't look as good. The textures are fairly flat. The lighting and shading really is just, there's not a whole lot there. The environments are kind of bland, and there's not a whole lot going on aside from the enemies and you. As far as it looks, the game, it doesn't look bad, but it doesn't by any means look very good. In the audio department, No One Lives Forever actually has quite a bit going on. The voice acting, as mentioned before, it's quite funny. There's definitely some, Austin Power moments. Like for instance, in this one section, you're talking to an enemy and basically questioning him, and he's wearing a fez similar to Fez in Austin Powers, and you've got to basically ask him 3 times, so that he'll tell you. But it's funny because then, I don't want to ruin anything, but there's definitely some crossover humor between the Austin Powers stuff and the game. In the end, the Operative No One Lives Forever is probably a good first-person shooter for the PlayStation 2, but without the quick save feature, it just makes it frustratingly hard to try to play, which is by no means a good thing. So if you're looking for a good first-person shooter out for the PlayStation 2, I would suggest picking up Half-Life or Red Faction, and definitely renting No One Lives Forever before you bought it, simply because the quick save feature is such a fundamentally needed thing for a first-person shooter such as this, that without it, it's just incredibly crippling.
Damn.
Agent Archer, how thoughtful of you to join us. I hope we aren't inconveniencing you too awfully with matters of international security.